How many of you guys have a conversation with somebody of a different age every single day? Raise them up. And how many of you have had one of those conversations, and I'm talking a very important work-related conversation. You had it with somebody of a different generation, and when you walk away from the conversation, you just know that person has no idea what you just said. Right? I've had it too. So what do we do about that? Let's be honest. Boomers, we know what you do. You guys will reach into your pocket and pull out your trusty pen, and you'll write us a note. In cursive. We can't read cursive. So we shoot you a text. And you guys take the next 2 days and wonder why there's a little envelope at the top of your phone. So look, it's going to be one of two things. It's going to be a challenge, sure. But this can also be an unprecedented opportunity for you. It's all going to depend on how you choose to look at it. I promise you, the things that I'm going to share with you this morning, they're not fads, they're not trends. They are the way things are moving. And specifically, it's moving like that in your industry. So you're either going to choose to get on board and you're going to make these things work for you and you're going to grow because of it, or you're going to choose to continue to fight it and you're going to struggle. The choice is going to be yours. So I'm going to give you what you need to know to understand the millennial mindset, how to market to us, how to sell to us, how to lead us, how to manage us. I'm a millennial, right? So you'd expect, I'm going to have PowerPoints, I'm going to have all these visuals and all this kind of stuff. You know, we don't need any of that stuff this morning, okay? And that's part of the point of the talk. See, a lot of what we think we know about generations just isn't true. I work for the Center for Generational Kinetics. We are a research firm. First and foremost, we study generations. We study generational trends. We learn how to get in front of them. And we learn how to make that work in specific industries to make your jobs easier so that you can lead better, so that you can manage better, so that you can sell more, and so that you can market more. And we talk about these trends, and the number one trend that affects almost everybody in this room, and it's a trend that nobody else likes to talk about, but it affects everybody in here, and that's parenting. Parenting. How you are raised is the number one indicator of how you will behave in the workplace and in the marketplace. Okay? For example, your work ethic. Do you show up early? Do you show up late? Do you look somebody in the eye and shake their hands, or do you give them the look away dead fish? How do you view spending, debt? All of these things are learned behaviors. And my generation, millennials, we learn from our parents, and our parents are who? What generation? Give it to me. Boomers, right? And boomers, you guys have a distinct parenting philosophy that has absolutely come back to bite you in the butt. And we're going to talk about that. Where's my boomers? You guys raise them up. Let me see my boomers. Born 46 to 60. Good, it's a boomer conference. But how many of you would agree? Millennial shows up to work for you today. You know what? They got something left to learn. Would you agree? But how many of you would agree, you know what? When you showed up your first day of work, you had something left to learn too? Hey, here's the first leap I'm going to need you guys to take this morning. I know it's going to be difficult for some people, but the reality is when my generation shows up to work for you today, and by the way, we are the number one fastest growing generation in your industry as employees. We show up to work for you today, on average, we might be 1, 2, 3, 4, and sometimes even 5 years older than every single one of you was when you started your first job. That's an issue, right? Because what happens is, so you don't actually see that 24-year-old in front of you who really has never had a job. You see yourself at 24. 24, you had 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a house without a cosigner, which is impossible. And the result of that is my generation shows up to work for you today, and we do some things that you cannot believe we would actually do at work. In the U.S., there's about 80 million of us right now. We are the largest generation. Okay, boomers are close behind. There's right about 80 million of you guys too. Now that's important because boomers are the ones that drove the growth of this industry. Am I right? And you can look around the room and you can see that that's true. But boomers are entering a different life phase right now. They're kind of simplifying, right? They're going with kind of a less is more. They want to take a trip. They want to go see their grandbabies. Well, my generation, we're actually entering the opposite life phase. Okay, we're entering what we call the wealth accumulation phase. We're actually making money and we are spending money. Everybody thinks my generation's broken, that our pants are falling off. What gets lost in the fact is that there are 80 million of us. Watch this, 2017, next year. My generation becomes the first generation to outspend boomers in the United States. At that point of divergence, our spending patterns are going to go like this. Boomers, you guys are going to flatline or go in the other direction, and it's all like that from here on out. This is one of the more controversial things I share, but you guys need to know this. Here's what's happening in our generation. There's over 80 million of us, right? What we're seeing in my generation, we're actually splitting into two different groups. We're actually splitting like this, two different trajectories. You've got this one group up here that's doing what we're supposed to do. We moved out of mom and dad's house. We're paying our own bills. We have jobs. We're holding things down. We're doing the things we're supposed to do. We're the millennials in this room, am I right? We didn't get a trophy for being here today. Would have been nice. Maybe next year. But we're doing the things we're supposed to do. News doesn't want to talk about us. They don't want to talk about the fact that 25% of all new millionaires this year, millennials, they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about the other half of our generation that's not creating what we call real-world outcomes. They're not able to hold down jobs. They're not able to own the outcomes of their lives. That's who the news wants to talk about. And for some reason that we have not figured out yet, but we will, by the time you're age 30, you self-select one generation, or one path or the other, and at that point, you can no longer relate to the other half of your own generation. My millennial friends, you guys see that? What gets lost in this is the group that's most offended by millennials who act entitled. It's actually the other millennials. Because we think that group is giving our entire generation a bad name. It's not the boomers. They just roll their eyes and go, who raised these kids? Number 2 way millennials want to communicate, email. Email. I was looking up a lot of your organizations before coming here. Some of you guys spend a lot of money on email marketing, and let me tell you something, guess what? A lot of it's a waste. Let me tell you something about email. All that matters is the subject line. Subject line determines open rate. That's why you'll see millennials send you an entire email in the subject line. You're like, oh, something's wrong with the email, and it's broken. We're like, no, that's the email. Why do we do that? It allows us to turn it into a text message. So email is number 2. Number 3 way we want to communicate, second thing, we are entirely visual learners. We've actually been conditioned to skip large blocks of text. I know a lot of you guys have process for selling. A lot of you guys do it like a 5-step, 7-step, something like that. Here's the problem. We don't think in a linear fashion at all. We're actually completely outcome driven. It's the opposite of step by step. So here's what you need to do with us. You start with the outcome. You start at step 7. Start at the outcome, show us the outcome, and then walk us backwards. At that point, we'll follow along. And you know what? If for some reason we do check out, here's what you do. You get a screen right in front of us, and you just keep going. As long as I'm talking to the screen and you're talking to the screen, we're all speaking through it, we'll follow you all the time. We have been conditioned to talk through these screens, not look at you while we talk. We look at the screens while we talk. That's why you'll see millennials and younger generations sitting in a room texting each other while they're sitting next to each other. We'll even do it while we're dating. Talk through the screen. Remember that new millennial who's actually never had a job, right? We were talking about them at the very beginning. They've never had a job, so they're here. So here's what you do. You got this new millennial employee coming on board. So say you bring him in on a Friday and you let him know, congratulations, you got the job. You just take a box this big, business cards, just 10. You got their name on it, spelled correctly. Hand them that. You say, welcome to the team. Now this officially gives you the right to say you represent us just like we represent you. Nobody does business cards anymore. Right? They're going to be so excited for that. They're going to run out. Who's the first person they're going to give that business card to? Mom. Absolutely. Probably when she picks them up from the interview, right? Generations are never meant to be a box that people just fit squarely into. When you start doing that, you start isolating people. It doesn't work. But what they are is a very, very powerful set of clues. When you understand what clues to look for, you can create the outcomes you want.